it's honest expression of our experience in relation to an event, another person. So that. Another thing that I wanted to point out that for me is really important is that it's an opportunity, and some of you also mentioned this, for growth and learning. And what I love about this here is omnidirectional. And what I mean by that is that it's not just if I'm giving feedback to someone else, oh, well, they get to learn and grow. I get to learn and grow through the process. People who are witnessing or hearing about it get to learn and grow through the process. So it's something that benefits all of us. It's not just I'm doing you this favor by giving you this feedback. I benefit from it. I learn and grow by doing it as well. And then another thing that for me is really important about feedback, one of these, again, maybe is more obvious, is that, it can contribute. It's a pathway toward shared understanding, where we can maybe around a certain experience or anything, we can start to begin to see, oh, this is what it was like for you, and this is what that experience was like for me, and to be able to understand. It doesn't mean we had the same experience, but we can both share that understanding, of each other's experience. And then one for me that is really important that I think often gets forgotten is this idea of shared stewardship. Yeah. For me, it's since someone mentioned people going to war, it's, we send people to war and we say, protect us or do this for us or whatever. They have all these experiences, but we never really then get the feedback of what that costs them, what kind of impact it has on them. Because that would help us to be thinking more clearly about, do we really want to be sending people off to war in the first place? So that feedback helps us to see the impact it has on the wider whole. And then as both of you said in different ways, to take that responsibility, to be part of, wow, okay, yeah, it's not just we send you off and good luck, oh, you have a horrible experience or not, well, that's too bad. No, we're part of making that choice. So can we hold all of that together and take responsibility for, those choices and things? And feedback is one of the ways that we can do that. And war is a particularly, challenging example because, we tend to cleanse our language around it, for example, by saying collateral damage. Those are human beings that are killed, but we call them collateral damage. So then it's hard to get the feedback we need about, do we really want to be engaging in these kinds of activities in the first place? So that's the idea of that shared stewardship. Okay. How does it feel when you give feedback? So when you're the person giving feedback to someone about something they did or said, how does it feel inside of you? What is it like for you when you are giving feedback? What makes feedback scary? As a number of you mentioned, it's an act of vulnerability, right? We're sharing, something that's important to us. Otherwise, we wouldn't be giving the feedback in the first place. And, we're kind of making ourselves vulnerable in that act of sharing, kind of what's going on in us in relation to whatever they said or did, and it can, as others you mentioned, it can be painful when it's not received. When your intention is, I'm wanting to contribute, I'm hoping this will help you to, better care for yourself or better take care of your needs or whatever it might be. And it's not received that way, that can be painful. And then also I've certainly, found myself kind of taking responsibility. Oh, they feel bad now, it's my fault. And we'll look at how do we translate that in a way that, it's easier for us to continue to give it and others to receive it. So those are some of the things that I had just written down that I wanted to share with you, but you really captured, I think, all of them in people's responses. So, given that giving feedback can be uncomfortable or scary, why do we do it? What's the motivation to give it? What's the motivation to want to receive it? So, one of the obvious, and you all mentioned in various ways, is know the impact of my actions and words. Did they meet, the intended needs? There was a reason I spoke, or there was a reason I took the actions I took. Were they successful? Did what I hoped would happen happened? Did they meet the needs that I was hoping they would meet? You know, and that's sort of the, one of the strongest, motivations for receiving feedback. Did what I do, did it help? Did it contribute? Did it, whatever I was hoping it do, did it do that? It might seem like that from my perspective, but if it impacts other people, I don't know. I need to have that feedback to find out. And again, also, as some of you mentioned, sometimes we mix up, the getting feedback and growth and learning with approval. And when we mix it up with approval, that's when feedback can be really scary, because then it's not just about, oh, did I meet my needs? It's about my worth and value. Am I okay? Am I a worthy colleague? Am I a good brother, son, neighbor, whatever? And that's where, for me, I need to be really careful, because in the past, I took all feedback as an evaluation on my worth and value. And so I literally, the very first time Marshall Rosenberg, the man who developed nonviolent communication, the very first time he gave me feedback on my participation in a workshop that he was leading, I literally fell off my chair. I was leaning back, and as he get it, I suddenly lost my balance and fell over. And it was, later, I didn't know it at the time, but later it was related to how much that feedback I was taking in as, this is a statement about my worth and value, instead of just as an opportunity to learn and grow. And so, if I can enjoy negative feedback, quote unquote negative feedback, as much as quote unquote positive feedback, then feedback can be fun. If I keep it focused on, is it for my learning and growth? Oh yeah, I want to know, did what I do serve? If it didn't, I want to know that. Otherwise, I'll keep doing the same thing over and over again, thinking it's contributing when maybe it's not. Yeah. Okay. And then the motivation for giving feedback, as you said, contributing to the learning of another, so help them improve or grow, in some way, or, give them feedback. Oh, I know you really wanted this to contribute in this way, and I'm not sure it was contributing that way. And here's what I saw, can that help that person? And then also the functioning of the whole, so it might not be just that person, but as some of you mentioned, us as a team, us as a neighborhood, how we live together as neighbors. I really want to contribute to that, to help us to enjoy our interactions in our way, or the safety of our neighborhood, or the beauty and cleanliness of our neighborhood. I want to contribute to that, or it could be, as a nation, how I want to give feedback about how we're doing things as a nation, because, I think there's some things that we could do better that would help all of us. And then sometimes we want to give feedback because there's some pain in us, or something that didn't, some needs of ours that weren't met by what somebody said. So it's we're caring for ourselves in a way. Maybe we want to be heard or seen or understood about something that, that wasn't being received in the way that we wanted, or something that you said or didn't work for me, didn't meet my needs. And so I really want to let you know, because I'd really love to have those needs met better. You're my brother, you're my sister, you're my mother, you're my coworker. We're going to be hanging out together. We're going to be doing things together for a long time. I'd really like to find a way we can interact that works better for me. So that also can be a motivation. So the purpose of feedback, purpose of feedback, as we've said, to see and know each other. Maybe to support us in coming to a shared understanding, like when you're working in teams. Wow, it seems like this project is going in this direction, and I thought we were wanting it to go in this direction. Let's talk about it. Let's give each other feedback so we can come to a shared understanding. We also want to understand the quality of experience that others are having in our presence, right? So, wow, like even for now, I'm hoping that what I'm sharing is contributing in that, but I don't know unless I get feedback from, from each of you, from all of you, which we'll do, towards the end of this time. So what is the quality of your experience, Or maybe when I'm passionate about things, I raise my voice. How is that for you? Maybe that you experience that as violence. When I'm passionate and explaining or talking, passionately about something that we're involved with, maybe for you, that's like really harsh and you feel it as violence. I want to know that, because instead of focusing on maybe what I'm sharing, you're focusing on, this is scary or this is painful. So I want to know that, to make changes that better meet all the needs, right? So even if in that last example I gave where I'm speaking with a lot of passion and volume, if you're not hearing what I'm saying because of the intensity of how I'm expressing it, then that's not serving me either, as well as serving you. So I want to make changes so that we can, what I'm doing can better work. So some of the needs, that you might recognize as a purpose for feedback, contribution, growth, learning, support, shared understanding, and authenticity. These are some of the things that I find are the purpose for feedback. So here we have 3 NVC skills that are very helpful, I found, when we're giving feedback. So the first one we're going to look at is what is called an observation. And basically, that is looking at what did the person say or do that you're wanting to give feedback about? What did the person say or do that you're wanting to give feedback about? So in my example, a week or so ago, in a call with my wife and my wife's family, my brother-in-law said something that was extremely hard for my wife to hear and was even hard for me to hear. So I could, my observation could be, when you were a selfish jerk, because that's what I was thinking he was in that moment, that he only cared about himself and no one else. And how do you imagine that might have gone over with him if I started my sentence with that? Oh, when you were being a selfish jerk just a minute ago. So when I make an observation, I want to, if I can, I quote that person, because now we're not going to be arguing about, whether he's a jerk or not a jerk. This is what he said. He said those words. So there's no argument. So now we can get to what I really want to be talking about. But now he knows what I'm talking about, or if he had done some action, if he had it was a Zoom call, obviously, if he had picked up his hand and went, like this, when my wife was speaking, then I would want to describe what he did. When my wife was talking, you raised your hand and you waved it down across the screen. Again, we're not going to be arguing about what he did. So I'm not going to be saying, when you just, kind of wave my wife off like she was nothing. Again, we're going to be arguing about, did she wave her off? Did he do that? No, but he did raise his hand and, put it down across the screen like that while she was talking. We can both agree on that. So what I want to invite you all to do now is to think of your own example and see if you can identify, what did the person say or what did the person do that you want to give feedback on? So take a moment and see if you can come up with something, and you might want to write it down. What did they say? And if you can remember a quote, or as close as you can to a quote of what they said, if it was words that you want to give feedback on, or if they did an action, can you describe the action rather than give your opinion of what that action meant or judgment of what that action meant. Then the next skill is, stating what needs of ours were met or not met. So in nonviolent communication, we look at what we call universal human needs. So just briefly, let's just hear from, or maybe have you write in the chat. In order to have a wonderful life, what are some things that all human beings would want to have in their life to have a wonderful life? So in nonviolent communication, we call these things universal human needs. And so now I'm just sharing a list. It's not a endless list. There's other things that aren't on there, but this gives you some idea of, universal human needs. And as you look at them, if this is new to you, just notice, are there any of these things that you're like, nah, I don't want that, purpose and meaning, nah, I don't want it, take it away from me, or peace or hope, inspiration, harmony. These are all things that all human beings want to have in our lives. And so in nonviolent communication, we recognize these things as the main ingredients of making our life wonderful. And therefore, because we are obviously all wanting a wonderful life, they are also the primary motivators of human behavior, is what we say in nonviolent communication. So what that means is that all human actions, words, everything we do, say, don't say, is our best attempt to meet our needs. And so when we're offering feedback, we're letting people know, what needs of ours were met. My need for learning was met by what you just said. Or maybe a need was not met. Wow, my need for support or for care or consideration was not met by what you just shared. Because these are universal to all human beings, when we speak in this way, it makes it much easier for somebody to understand what we're talking about, because we all have a need for understanding. We all have a need for support. We all have a need for belonging. So even if our need might not have been met in the way that they're hoping to get that need met, we still know what it feels like to have that need for support and have it met and not met. So it's a way that we can all understand each other, even if our experiences or our ways of getting our needs met look different because of our upbringing, our culture, our education, whatever it might be, our preferred way of taking care of ourselves. So the second skill of nonviolent communication, once we've said what we're talking about, the observation, when you said this or when you did that, now I want to let the person know what impact it's had on me. And the way nonviolent communication suggests that we do that is by sharing our needs. Were they met? Yeah, there are these needs that were met by what you did or said. Or no, there are some needs that weren't met. So I'll just share my screen again here. So in the second part, stating the needs met or not met, it's a way of answering, why does this matter? Why am I even talking to you about this in the first place? Well, it's because I want to thank you, give gratitude maybe, because you really helped me meet these needs. I want to let you know that what you did really contributed to me and my well-being. Or, it didn't really meet my needs, as in, my brother-in-law's example. And so notice I'm talking about, when you did this, these needs of mine were not met. So we made a clear observation, when you said this, and it said the quote back, the needs that were not met in my case. And then we want to follow that up by a request. And the request is seeking connection in some way to understand, did you get what I said, or how do you feel about what I said? Or maybe I'm wanting to address some need that I identified in this second part that I said. So let's look at my example to help make that more clear. So, my observation was, when you say, are you telling me that the only weekend you are free in February to go home and to mom and dad's is the weekend I want to come? I feel concerned about that, because when I would like Emily's needs to have equal weight with whatever needs you have around this choice. So I have a few different things of my request might be. The first one, so help me understand, because I'm realizing, as some of you already mentioned, I'm not sure if my interpretation of what he meant by what he said is accurate. So I'm needing more information first. And that information would then serve my need for that equal weighting of both people's needs. So I'm wanting to understand. So, brother-in-law, are you saying that you are coming that weekend and you would like Emily to work around your dates if she's willing? Is that what you're saying? Because I'm telling myself that you're saying, I've decided when I'm coming and you need to work around it. That's what I thought I heard you say, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm not sure, so I want to check out. So my first request is for understanding, to meet the need for understanding. So is that what you meant when you said what you said? And then if he says yes, then I might go to the next thing, So I'm wanting to make sure he's really hearing what I'm saying. He's hearing that I want, Emily's needs to have equal value and equal weight to whatever needs he's bringing. So in that case, I might want to ask him, I'm not sure I was clear. I might say, when you say, are you telling me that the only weekend you are free in February to go to mom and dad's is the weekend I want to come? I'm concerned, because I really want, Emily's needs around this decision to have equal weight and value to whatever needs you have around this decision. I'm not sure that was clear. Would you be willing to tell me back what you heard me say, so I can be sure that it was clear? Or I could ask them, would you be willing to tell me how you're feeling about what I said? So notice that these two examples are about, these two examples here are about connection. Because one of the most important things, if you can take away from this, that for me, that I keep needing to remind myself is that feedback is not a statement, it's dialogue. It's not just a one-off, here it is, and walk away. Feedback is a dialogue, it's not just a statement. So what I'm doing here is I'm inviting more dialogue. I'm inviting more connection. What I'm doing here is I'm trying to get a need met. Down here, the need is for connection first. Because out of that connection, I trust that I'll get all my needs met. So here, the first one is I'm trying to get my need for understanding met. And then I'm going to go for connection. Because right now I'm not sure that what they said and how I heard it is accurate. Because I'm putting certain meaning on it. Like he's basically saying, I've decided and you work around it. Is that really true? I need to check that out, because that might not be true. That might have been how it came out, but that's really not what he meant.